All right, so we recently discussed on this show how it would be a good idea for Jason Licht to come out and address the media amidst all this Baker Mayfield and Vita Vea contract drama. Well, he did just that on Thursday, and he made his stance very clear when it comes to the future of Vita Vea in Tampa Bay. I'm Evan Winter with A to Z Sports. Let's dive into the drama. So yeah, in case you haven't seen it, a report came out within the last couple of days from Rick Stroud of the Tampa Bay Times. It was a discussion between him and Vita Vea's agent, and Vea's agent said that the only way he sees this whole thing ending is in a trade. Well, that's not how Jason Licht sees it. Jason Licht specifically said on Thursday he has no plans of trading Vita Vea. So, I mean, Licht is a savvy media guy. He knows how to respectfully work around a question and, fill in the gaps, so on and so forth. But he will be direct and honest when the time calls for it. And that's exactly what he was. He even gave a little bit of credence to Vea's back injury, saying that it's a minor thing, that they don't want to turn into a major thing. And a quick aside, just fast, is I don't think the Buccaneers are playing any games with this. Yeah, like typically when you see a player ask for a trade request and all of a sudden they pop up on the injury report, it's definitely fishy timing, and you can totally see why it leads some people to, start talking conspiracy theory or however you want to put it. I don't think that's the case here, though. I do think Vea has something legitimate going on, and the Buccaneers are just proceeding with caution with a bigger player who plays a very dangerous position, which is the trenches. Light did confirm that there is interest in Vea now, and this is where his savviness kicks in. He did frame it, though, as it's more of a business than usual type interest, or business as usual type interest, compared to Vita Vea just requested a trade. We got to call Jason right now and figure out what's going on or what he's, what they're looking for, so on and so forth. So to be exact, Light said that at this time of year, both the Buccaneers and plenty of other teams are constantly calling around and asking about players, so on and so forth. And while, yeah, there's probably some truth to that, I think both sides of the coin, 6 one way, half dozen the other, I think both of those are in play in this situation. Sure, there were probably some teams that called proactively ahead of time, but then there were definitely teams that called once the news came out that Vita Vea asked for a trade. So with all that being said, though, there is interest out there. So you got to wonder if just, Vea hearing that confirmation, and I'm sure he knows himself because his agent talks to other teams, but still hearing that, you do wonder how Vea is going to handle that. But, that's just something that we can only speculate on. And obviously we don't want to speculate too much here, right? So he did say that he feels good about the depth on the defensive line, obviously adding A'Shawn Robinson, bringing Nacho back, drafting DeMonte Capehart. And you've even got guys like Elijah Simmons and Elijah Roberts who can maybe step in from time to time. Regardless, obviously none of those guys are Vita Vea, but Light does feel like there is enough there to fill the void, so to speak, if Vita decides to hold out for the regular season, obviously, because he's holding in during training camp, yada, yada. So what does this all mean at this point? Well, my thought is Vita Vea is going to continue to hold in through training camp and even the preseason, because it's just the smart thing to do in this type of situation, because he's not getting docked any money. He's making his point known, and I'm sure he's keeping himself in shape and doing the right things he needs to do in order to be as ready for as week 1 as possible. So with that being said, Vita Vea will be on this field in 2026. Now, when, I don't know, but I know he will be on there. And it's pretty simple when you think about all of it. So this whole thing is about money, right? Vita Vea wants to get paid more money. Well, if he doesn't play, he starts losing money. Now, the Bucs aren't going to be going into his bank account and pulling money out of his bank account, no like fines or anything like that, but he's going to start losing game checks. Vita Vea is due $18 million in cash this year. Players get paid over all 18 weeks, so even on the bye week, he gets paid. So Vita Vea stands to lose before taxes $1 million every single week. If you want to get paid more, if you want to make more money, why are you going to lose out on making money in general? That doesn't make any sense. And it just, I just can stop there. It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. There's no more to say about it. On top of that, if Vita Vea holds out past the 10-game mark, then he doesn't earn an accrued season, and that affects things like base salary, so on and so forth. Now, Vita Vea is entering his 8th year in the league, 9th season. So he is in that threshold where veteran minimum base salaries all kind of lump together and stay the same, but that still matters ultimately. But here is the final nail in the coffin as to why he will be on the field in 2026. And that's because if Vita Vea sits out the entire season, his contract rolls over into next year. And if he sits out long enough and the Buccaneers just want to say, hey, I'm done with this, we're hitting pause on everything, they can toll or freeze his contract to where it rolls over into next year. Because think about it, if he's sitting out, they're not paying him, right? So that contract is not in play. Therefore, if they pause it, freeze it, toll it, whatever word you want to use, then all that money that was supposed to be getting paid is not being paid. And now the future money is not getting paid either. And guess what happens if his contract rolls over into 2027? He's right back in the same spot. It's just like Groundhog Day. He's going to wake up. He is going to be under contract with the Buccaneers for 1 year, $18 million. And there's going to be nothing he can do about it because he sat out the entire season. So you tell me if you think Vita Vea is going to play or not. I mean, I think it's pretty obvious he will. It's just a matter of when and not if. Light also was asked a lot about Baker Mayfield, obviously, and he would not even get close to touching any kind of specifics on the contract negotiation details that went down between the two parties. But he did affirm that the Buccaneers believe Baker Mayfield is a franchise quarterback. And he also did say that the tag is something that they could work around and use next year. Now, look, of course, the franchise tag could be used, but realistically, it's not going to get used because there are so many cap gymnastics, going back to that whole thing, that would have to be done to make that work. Sure, Tristan Wirfs has the prime contract. That's the number one contract you look at when you come to restructuring to create cap space and whatnot. But you restructure his deal, and then you've got Chris Godwin and Antoine Winfield Jr., two of the highest cash salaries, base salaries on the Buccaneers roster right now. And if you were to rework their deals, there's already dead money and void years attached to those deals. So you're going to be stretching things out even further. And then you're also going to have to take out in other places and create basically the same issue. Like they always say, it's like taking out a credit card whenever you do this kind of stuff. And eventually the bill comes due. And here's the question that the Buccaneers have to ask themselves throughout all of that is, and look, I like Baker Mayfield. I think at his best, he is definitely a top 10 quarterback. I definitely think he was a leading MVP candidate through 7 to 8 weeks of last season. But you have to ask yourself the question of, is doing all of that worth it when it comes to Baker Mayfield? Tom Brady? Yeah, of course. You do whatever you can to build the best roster around the greatest quarterback to ever play the game of football. Lamar Jackson? Yeah, you do that. Josh Allen? Yes, you do that. Unquestionably. Joe Burrow? Yes. Patrick Mahomes? Yes, even though the Chiefs haven't really done that. Regardless, is he worth it? That's the question. And honestly, I don't think he is. I respect the guy beyond all levels of the game and just as a person, a human being. And I think he's a very good quarterback when healthy and when he's playing well. But he's not worth all of that on top of an $80 million cap hit. That is, again, realistically, it's not going to happen. Sure, it's a tool. And Jason Licht even talked about how he would be hesitant in wanting to use it anyway. He would if he had to, but he would be very hesitant to do it. So that tells you right there that it's already something they would prefer not to do. But if Baker goes out and leads the league in touchdown passes and the best quarterback for 2026 season and takes him to the Super Bowl, and then that's a different conversation. But did you just hear all the things that I said that should have to happen in order for that to even make the franchise tag something desirable, for lack of a better word? There are just so many different components when it comes to Baker Mayfield and the franchise tag that, it just realistically, it's not going to happen. So anyways, what do you think? Vita Vea, Should Jason Licht trade him? Do you think he's doing the right thing by, making him stand put? Do you think Vita Vea will play? Do you think Baker Mayfield will get his deal? Let me know in the comments. We'll talk about it. But until next time, keep your eyes on A to Z Sports Bucs, and we'll see you around.